Hello YouTube and welcome to my Guild Wars 2 Secretly Meta series. This is part 6 and I will be showing you the Thief for part 6 and yeah, so we'll jump right into it. I've been running basically this style of build since basically the beginning. I mean, it didn't have Daredevil and instead had Shadow Arts and was more of a stealth based, but now it's a lot more evasion based, and I've switched up a bit. But anyway, so it's Daredevil without a staff, which some might say is interesting, but I will explain everything right now. So Deadly Arts, Trickery, Daredevil. In Deadly Arts, Serpent's Touch. Basically, you inflict poison whenever you steal, and when you're downed, your attacks apply poison. So, apply 2 stacks of poison when you steal, and you're applying 1 stack of poison every time you attack while downed. So, helpful. Poison is really helpful, especially in downstate fighting, which thieves desperately need help with. Here we have Mug. So basically, you heal whenever you steal, and it does damage. You can't critical hit this, so you're going to deal 1,000 damage when you steal. Not complaining about 1,000 damage, but just saying you can't critical. Nice heal, Alright, here we have Lotus Poison. So you weaken targets when you poison them. Goes hand in hand with this. So when you steal, you're applying poison and weakness. Boom. It doesn't show the weakness there, but you do apply it. Here you have Panic Strike, so striking a foe below the threshold immobilizes them. So if they're under 50% health and you hit them, they become immobilized for 2.5 seconds. Simple as that. Here we have Expose Weakness, so deal more damage if the target has a condition. People will always have conditions on them. That's just the way it is. They will always have conditions on them. So you can expect to deal 10% more damage at all times. People just always have conditions on them. And here we have Executioner, so deal 20% extra damage when they're below 50% health. Pretty easy to understand. Deal more damage when they're below half health. Your damage isn't terrible when they're not below half health, but your damage really spikes once they get past the 50% threshold. Instead of Executioner, if you want a more control-based Thief build, you can run Improvision, so that you can use your F2 ability twice instead of just once. But I think Executioner is a much better trait, especially just for Thieves, and the way you're supposed to just play Thieves and Assassins, just in general, not just with Guild Wars 2, but with a lot of other games. Thieves and Assassins are supposed to just deal massive damage, so Executioner fits that role. Here we have Kleptomaniac, so stealing gives you initiative. Always gotta have some way of gaining initiative, So, and in Trickery you get just that. So you steal, you gain 2 initiative. There you go. Here is you gain Might, Fury, and Swiftness whenever you steal. It also gives it to nearby allies. Radius of 360, of course. It's helpful. Fury gives you extra critical hit chance. Might gives you more damage. Swiftness makes you move faster. Straightforward. Here you have Preparedness, so increases maximum initiative by 3. I'll mention this now. All Thieves need to run Trickery. That's just the way it needs to be, because without this, your initiative is going to be much lower, and you're not going to have as much initiative regen, because of this, amongst other traits that you could spend in Trickery. So you need to run Trickery. It's just going to be much better for you. When I run Thief builds without Trickery, I immediately go back to Trickery after I realize how important Trickery is to a Thief build. Here we have Bountiful Theft, so stealing grants Vigor. It also steals 2 boons. Really helpful for those high boon gain Bunker builds, It's just really helpful. Plus Vigor is really, really nice, especially with Daredevil when you now have the 3 dodge rolls instead of just the 2. Here you have Lead Attacks, so you have increased damage per initiative. Another reason why you need to have Trickery as a Thief, because the higher your initiative, the more damage you're going to do, and it recharges your Steal faster, which is the Thief's primary ability that you need to use as much as possible. So That's reason number 3 you need to use Trickery. And here's the final one, because stealing will now daze and reduces recharge of steel even farther. So you not only are recharging 15% faster, but now 20% faster in addition to that. So 35% reduced recharge on steel to give you the 20 seconds more or less for the recharge. And the interrupt is really nice, especially if they're going for a stomp. You can just steal right in and then finish them off. And I'm running Daredevil. Thief needs to run Daredevil nowadays, just because of the really great things Daredevil provides that is basically more worthy of running than the other trait lines. So here, this gives you access to all the Daredevil stuff, gives you access to the staff and all the physical skills that Daredevil has available to them, and also gives you the third dodge roll that you can see here. I have chosen to go with Havoc Mastery to deal increased damage to enemies within the threshold. So basically, if they're within a radius of 360, which they likely will be if I'm going to be hitting them with unload, but you never know. But if they are close, then I'm going to be dealing 7% more damage. It's just a no-brainer for the style of build that I'm running. Here, it's driven Fortitude, so gain health when you successfully evade an attack. Because this is Daredevil and you now have 3 dodge rolls, you're going to be evading a lot more. Plus you gain Vigor upon stealing, and you have lots of other evades. So you're going to gain a fair amount of health. Not a lot, but a fair amount. And it only has a recharge of 1 second. So, yeah. And here, I have Impacting Disruption. So, basically, enemies that I interrupt suffer Preliminary Impact, which basically is an unblockable attack that deals, as you can see there, almost 800 damage. 1800, I mean. And that's basically what this skill is for. Headshot. You basically shoot them. It's a quarter-second daze, so it's only made to interrupt, and that's it. And since the steel also interrupts, you can just spike damage even with headshot and steel, and it's also really helpful for Basilisk Venom. Here, gain endurance whenever you successfully steal from an enemy. So stealing will, in addition to all that, will also give you 50 endurance, which is about half of one of these bars. So really helpful. It's either a half or a full. I forget. But it's extremely helpful to have either way. Here we have, of all of these are all changing your dodge roll to be something else, but I've chosen this one to get perma swiftness because thieves really need to have a way of getting around, and as you can see I don't have an alternate way of gaining swiftness other than using steel, but I do not want to use steel when I'm not on an enemy just to gain the swiftness. That's kind of ridiculous. So I chose dash so that it's now basically a run and you travel 450, so you travel farther than a normal dodge roll. You gain the swiftness for 10 seconds, and basically it's gonna reduce incoming damage and incoming condition damage after you dodge as well, so it helps keep you alive just a little bit. Not a lot, but every little bit helps. Moving on, so I'm running Marauder. It's pretty standard for most Zerker style builds, and I'm also running Eagle, so I deal even more damage when they're less than 50% health. It increases my precision and my ferocity. I'm running Pistol with Shortbow, so I could run Fire Air for the Pistol, and then Fire Energy for the Shortbow, and that's really all there is to it. I mean, staff is not all that bad, and if you want to use staff instead of the short bow, I mean, you can if you're better at using the staff, but short bow, in my opinion, is better. It's just better for evasion, for when someone goes down, you can do the poison field. You got that shadow step arrow. It's better in my opinion. But if you don't anticipate needing those powers, then go ahead and swap it for staff if that's what you're into. I'm just here for suggestions. Now, moving on, so for heal skill I use Withdrawal. Withdrawal is the better heal skill of all of these, mostly because of the cooldown is 18 seconds as opposed to the 30 with the stealth. And even though it doesn't heal for quite as much, this is basically having a 4th dodge roll. And here you use Shadow Refuge. All thieves pretty much use Shadow Refuge. Maybe not so much anymore, but a lot of them still do, because it heals, it provides a massive amount of stealth, it's a combo field, etc, etc. Really, really helpful. I don't care that it has a 1 minute cooldown. I don't need to use it that often. It's only as a last resort kind of thing. Here I have my double stun break Shadow Step. So basically you Shadow Step to a location, you break a stun. If you get stunned again, just teleport back to the original location and breaks another one. Really, really helpful for not only chasing down, but breaking stuns. Here I have Haste. It's also a break stun in addition to the quickness and the fury, but I mostly just use this to abuse the quickness and the fury. So basically, I use this immediately upon entering combat, and so I can just kind of mow them down with unload. They hit 50%, I steal from them to interrupt, heal, steal boons, the poison, and just continually mow them down. Now I use Basilisk Venom for the elite, but some people might want to do the impact strike that you get from Daredevil, though I don't really recommend it. I think Basilisk Venom is still better. All impact strike is going to do is it's used on down people, so that you can basically prevent them from doing anything and you get a free stomp. But Thief really doesn't need to be using that, because the Thief isn't really supposed to be finishing people. He just needs to get them in the down state for other people to finish. But if the Thief does have to finish somebody, they could use Shadow Refuge. They could throw down a Black Powder to continually blind them. As they're stomping, they can use the Shadow Step to get really far away, and right before they finish the stomp, teleport back. That will also get the stomp done. There's just tons and tons of ways that a Thief can finish somebody if they have to, and they don't need to take a whole skill to do it. Plus the recharge on it it's the exact same, but I would much rather have the Basilisk Venom because I get 2 strikes that basically will prevent them from doing anything for 2 seconds, and that's pretty good, considering in 2 seconds I could have dealt well over half their health and then finished them off by interrupting again. This build is just really, really deadly. Basically that's all there really is to using the build. If you're trying to chase people down, use Body Shot. It'll immobilize for a second, and that's plenty of time to catch up to somebody. You shouldn't really have many problems catching up to people because your dodge rolls will give you perma-swiftness. And you got all these tools to catch up to people, and you got your steal, your Shadow Step, your rolling, and your dodges. You got immobilize. Only use Headshot to interrupt people who are stomping, or you see like a ranger using rapid fire, you can just be like interrupt and unload, because your interrupts, you got to keep in mind that it's also going to trigger the trait, which is going to do the 1800 damage. Black Powder, I only recommend using Black Powder. Actually, I will tell you to only use the Black Powder when somebody is downed, like an enemy is downed. That way, you put the Black Powder on them so that they can't hit you while they're down, so you can finish them with the stomp. There's no other reason to use Black Powder. There's just not. And your auto attack just does a lot of bleeds, especially if you're stealthed. So when you are in Shadow Refuge and it's about to run out and you're about to re-enter combat, hit them with your auto attack first to put the bleed on it. Even though you're not, a Condi build, the 5 stacks of bleeding is still worthy of doing it. You just gotta shoot them once, and then you can hit unload the rest of the time. Short bow is only for escaping. It's not by any means a good source of damage, except for your number 2 seal here. That's not too bad. If there's a massive team fight and there's nobody else to pick off on the outsides of the battle, you can basically use short bow and throw the choking gas in there, poison and weakness, to help your team out, and then you can just kind of throw your cluster bomb in there. Don't detonate the cluster bomb, because as you can see, the small explosions are literally 1/3 the damage that the large explosion does. Plus the large explosion is a combo finisher, so you throw the poison field down, it applies poison and weakness, and because it's a poison field, if you combo off it, it will apply more weakness. So this is the reason why I also state that you need to use this, use short bow for downstate fighting, because when people are downed, you can throw the choking gas on them, and it'll poison them, which prevents them, first of all, from healing, because they're going to be taking a lot of damage, and it will also make people revive them slower, so they won't get up as fast. So, really helpful to use choking gas. Your number 3 is just a simple evade and cripple, and your number 5 is the main thing that you'll be using when you have short bow, and that's just you're gonna shadow step to the target area. It's pretty straightforward. It'll also blind, but that's unimportant because you should be using the short bow to get away, not to engage. And you know, your auto attack is pretty simple, just does base damage, and you should not be using this to attack from stealth, so you basically don't need to even worry about that. But just so you know, it will immobilize. Yeah, that's basically all there is to it. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay in tune for the next few videos that I'll be putting out in this series, and I'll be posting some combat videos later on. And be sure to comment below with questions, comments, concerns, you know, etc. And thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.